garden tractors apart and restore it from the ground up, this is kind of what you run into. It's almost like a never-ending supply of stuff to clean up and prime and paint. You can see the engine tin there and the debris screen there at the bottom. That has still got to be tack welded in. I'm having trouble with my welder. I've got to get that straightened out, but I can go ahead and keep cleaning on this stuff. Some mower brackets here on the left. Over here is the that's just kind of an inner bulkhead that kind of bolts around the engine area behind it, and it kind of holds the battery in the fuel tank. And it's just, if you take a look at it, you can just see this is the top side. The underside is even worse, but lots of bends and nooks and just areas to clean out. And really, this stuff, I've been thinking about this for a long time about getting one, and just when I piled this all there together, and then I've got more to go, and then I've got a Cub Cadet to redo one day, I decided to go ahead and to bring in some help. So I did. I went ahead yesterday and picked this up. It's kind of a small, medium-sized sandblast cabinet. I didn't want to try to get those parts done without something like this. It just goes so much faster, and I'm going to pull this thing out of here and get it set up and start trying it out. Cheapy, but that may be the best $100 I've spent in a long time. After just about maybe 30-45 seconds, here's my engine shroud, and you can see just really went to town on it. Of course, it's old paint, so that's the perfect setup for a sandblaster. And can you imagine trying to get in here and sand with sandpaper and a DA sander and trying to get all that? That's just not worth it. And this is the perfect size, to fit in that cabinet. That would not be fun to sand inside there. So that shroud will be done here. Maybe take me 30 minutes or so to get it stripped down. Maybe an hour, but even at that, that'll be, like I said, best $100 I've spent in a long time. Here's the stickers on this thing. The bottom one's falling apart, but you can see the top one. It's actually still really good, but I'm not going to tape over that thing and paint around. I just don't like to do that. I don't really want to rattle can it because I want it to match the body. It's going to be sitting right on that, freshly painted chassis piece, and it needs to match. So I'm going to go ahead and mix up some paint in the gun and shoot it. I've got enough left over for a few little pieces. That's what I'm going to do now, so I'm going to get to work. Don't drink the water. It's dirty. I'm warning you. Oh God, he's drinking tractor water. Animal abuse. Oh, a giant bowl. That's like a dog drinking out of a swimming pool. There he goes. Alright, congratulations. Okay, I've got the steering gear set in place there, and the steering shaft has been pushed up through. What you have to do is there is a keyway at the top of that shaft that the steering wheel engages. You want to kind of pay attention to that and either make it in your 12 o'clock or 6 o'clock position when it ends up. As you push the shaft in with this steering gear, you have to be a little bit off-centered. I had to do it to the counterclockwise, about 2 teeth, where it wasn't straight up and down. And then once it engages, it kind of rotates as it goes into place and locks on in. I've got my tractor on its side here, so I've got a pretty good basic alignment going. I know that it is more or less, wheels are straight ahead. I'll have to do some fine-tuning when we get it up on its feet. But at any rate, just kind of pay attention to that and have your keyway slot either in the 12 or 6 o'clock position. I'm going to go ahead and put my steering wheel on while it's on its side, so when I flip it over on its wheels, it doesn't drop the shaft at the bottom. It kind of hangs up because it's got a washer that kind of keeps it on there. I don't know if you can see it or not. The back of that steering gear, the smaller one, it's got a washer there, and it usually kind of keeps it from just dropping at the bottom completely. So we'll take care of that here in a minute. I also wanted to put in new grease zerks here in this steering gear, and then both spindles up front. And I used, this is a Hillman brand, got these at Lowe's. Basically it's just a 1/4 inch by 28 short straight for the front. You don't want those to go in too far, so they're real short threaded. And then the center one here for this steering gear, it is a 45-degree 1/4 inch -28. So if you are going to replace, I would just suggest replacing your grease zerks. I think it cost me a grand total of $3 to do that. And just start out with a clean grease fitting, and then to go from there. But I'm gonna knock this circlip in and go ahead and pump this thing full of grease and get ready to set this thing up on its wheels. Picked up a stainless steel replacement here from Westlake for this screw. Originally this was a Phillips type head. I was lucky to get it out. Actually it didn't come out. I had to hacksaw it off. Got a blade in between there and cut it away, but on the bottom side I'm using a nylock here. But that was a perfect fit. It sits right down in there, and this style is an Allen wrench, so that'll be a whole lot better to work with in the future. Hopefully whoever has this tractor in 50 years or something from now will appreciate it when they tear it down and restore it. It should be a whole lot easier. So there's the bottom side of the steering shaft. You can see it's got a little ways to go. It's not fully engaged with the steering wheel yet, and so it's kind of awkward to work with because of the length of this tube here, and you just can't get anything behind it for leverage to push it either way or the other. And you try to push it out the top, and then the gear, the whole shaft tries to drop out the bottom. So I think I'm going to brace this bottom with the 2x4 and some wood shims until I get it where I want it, the proper height, and then I will bring the steering wheel in from the top and just use a rubber mallet and kind of tap it down. Alright, so basically what I did here is I got the steering wheel into alignment, got the front wheels straightened where I want everything and all lined up. Keyway up here, see it in there, it's at 12 o'clock position. You do it at 6, whatever, but just somewhere you can recognize and keep track of it. And then I've got below here, I pushed a 2x4 right to the end of that, and it's bottomed out here with the steering shaft gear, and I had to shim it up with the block down there. So I think that's going to work. It might be a little bit slippery, but it's on cardboard here, so we'll see if it holds together while I try to get the steering wheel into place. If you remember right, me taking this steering wheel off, the disassembly, it was a nightmare too, so this is just fitting that it's just fighting me to go back on. Why not, right? Wouldn't be fun if it wasn't a challenge. Alright, we got it back on its right hand side now. I ran into a little snag with the clutch lever. It runs all the way through the body, and it's actually part of the system that holds the footrest. See, the footrest slide onto a pin that's part of the chassis, and then the upper part is handled by the brake lever. And the front of this chassis is made up 3 different pieces of steel come together right where the clutch brake passes through. That pin right there is the back part of the footrest, and then the larger hole to the top there, let's keep zooming in, and you actually might even be able to see right there, you can see how that middle piece of steel is lower. So there's 3 holes right there. You can see the thickness is right there. Shows it pretty well actually. Those have got to line up. Alright, I actually had to break loose all those bolts in that shot there. The 2 that hold the tower dash on, and then the 3 there on the that plate right there, because those 2 on the dash piece, they were holding it too. So you have to get these 3 plates so they can shift and move around and then get lined up. So I've got it lined up, did a test fit, and the clutch pedal rod went through. I need a shorter name for that, so I'm going to go ahead and put this thing together now. Okay, now that you've got the brake pedal to fit properly, you don't want to get ahead of yourself and try to move on to the next step here, because you'll have to pull this back out temporarily in order to install your fittings. One operates your clutch, one operates your brake. So you've got to get these in the proper order. I took pictures of mine below before I started tearing it down, so I'm going to refer to those now and get these put back in properly. I don't want to, this is not something you want to try to do a trial and error on, because They can be turned the wrong way, and they can be swapped end for end. So